The EFF remains deeply disturbed that the Speaker chose to prioritize claims of personal risk over constitutional duty to uphold the authority, dignity, and oversight powers of Parliament. Accepting such claim without verified intelligence, formal risk assessment, or security briefings sets a reckless precedent in which any individual, particularly the powerful and well-connected, can evade scrutiny simply by invoking fear. Brown Mokhotsi has previously appeared before formal state processes, including the Madlanga Commission, without any recorded security incident. Additionally, O'Sullivan has himself been the one to send threatening messages to previous witnesses and those testifying in Parliament, and through his own revelation in the media has spoken extensively on these matters with extreme enthusiasm and no displayed fear of retaliation. Therefore, the sudden emergence of alleged threats at the precise moment they are required to account before Parliament raises legitimate questions about the credibility of these claims and the motivations behind them. It becomes evident then that the Speaker's refusal to authorize subpoenas amounts to political protection. We must all remember that O'Sullivan has got a special relationship with the President of the Republic of South Africa. The same goes to Brown Mokhotsi, who claimed to have very close relationship with the suspended Minister of Police. Hence, the protection we are seeing today, because they too will expose those politicians that are involved in wrongdoing.
And of course, EFF leader Julius Malema, there you heard from him saying that the National Assembly Speaker Togo Didiza's decision to shield Northwest businessman Brown Mokhotsi and private investigator Paul O'Sullivan is essentially political protection. Now, Didiza warned that Parliament must demonstrate that it has properly engaged with the reasons that were advanced by the two witnesses, particularly on security and availability and or risk having any subpoena set aside if challenged in court. Now, Malema was speaking during the media briefing that was held at the party's headquarters in Johannesburg yesterday. But of course, he's here right now, so we can get straight into it. Mr. Malema, thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you.
So much to talk about, and that is as good a place as any. So you're accusing the Speaker of Parliament of basically shielding Brown Mokhotsi and Paul O'Sullivan. But let's get into it. Why do you believe that this is a case of political shielding rather than just following the rules?
No, there are no rules being followed. We wrote to her in October. She only responded now knowing that by the 20th of February we must wrap up our work. So we don't have time. And that response, once it comes late, even if you want to challenge it, there's nothing you can do about it. But it's not for her to say we must prove that indeed there is no security threat on Mokhotsi or Paul O'Sullivan. One, there is a security of Parliament that works with the police, that works with intelligence. If they call upon any witness and they pick up security threat without even telling the committee, they take measures and ensure that the witness is protected in such a way that it doesn't compromise the integrity of the committee. Mokhotsi, who is alleging, must prove. He's the one who's alleging that there is a security threat. Paul O'Sullivan says there's a security threat, but they don't produce anything. I can just come to you and say, I'm pregnant without pregnancy test. I must be able to demonstrate that I'm pregnant. So I can't just take your word for it. They must prove they have not produced anything except say we're threatened. And with Mokhotsi it's even worse. They say he shot his own car and never went to the police station when police were looking for him. So how do you trust such a person? He's coming to implicate the ANC because he's the one who was a go in between Matlala and Senzo Mkhunu and the rest of them. And they are tired of hearing that side of the story. Paul will do the same. To work with McBride is to work with higher cadres of the ANC. McBride did not deny that kind of a relationship. We know that Paul has got a relationship with the president that post 1994. That's why there is an article in the papers, the old article, that shows Paul handing over an award to the president for community policing. What does the president have to do with community policing during apartheid? We were not policing community at that time. We were underground, we were in exile, prison, everywhere else fighting the struggle. The president is being awarded by an alleged spy from Britain as one of the good people during apartheid. So you can see this date back to those difficult times. And we're not about to get Paul O'Sullivan and Brown Mokhotsi because they enjoy the ANC speaker's protection.
So what you're essentially saying is that, you said it, there's a special relationship between O'Sullivan and President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Absolutely.
But in this instance, apart from the situation or the picture that you spoke to right now, is there any other evidence that you could present that states that makes sure that we know that there is, in fact, today, as you and I sit here, a special relationship between President Ramaphosa and Paul O'Sullivan?
I don't have to produce any evidence. It's there in the ad hoc committee where Patlani and General Mkhwanazi said, Paul O'Sullivan said in public, President gave me names of people he can appoint as national commissioners of police. And I therefore recommended Patlani as a national commissioner of police. So who of civilians, that's what we want to ask him about, and that's what we are asking the president about. Why would you give such responsibility to recommend of the recommended people who is a suitable person to occupy a position of a national commissioner of police? What more do you want? If a person can be given such a responsibility where the president said, unprecedented by the way, advertise this post, let people apply, shortlist, interview, recommend. Certain people were recommended. Amongst them was Patlani. And then Paul O'Sullivan said the president gave him the list. And then he had to choose a suitable candidate. If the president did not give him that list to choose a suitable candidate, who gave him that list? That answer can only be given by President and Paul O'Sullivan.
As the EFF, why is it imperative that Paul O'Sullivan appears before the ad hoc committee in person? Why is it not sufficient for him to give his evidence virtually?
It's you. What you did to him there on the virtual interview, the next thing when he didn't agree with your questions, he switched off. If he can do that to you, he's going to do that to us. He actually is doing that to us already. He says EFF, MK, and Action SA are not going to ask me questions because already they've made their mind, they're criminals, they're all and all of that. So once it's on virtual, you don't have control over him. But when it's in parliament, we're going to tell him and we'll demonstrate to him that he's nobody except being a citizen of this country like all of us. When he tries to throw tantrums and stand up, we're going to tell him, sit down. You're not going anywhere, sit down. You have taken an oath and you're going to sit through until we're done. Only the chairperson can give you a leave of absence. Otherwise, you're going to sit there. And he knows that we're not going to beg him because we're not scared of him. We are not the people he captured in the criminal justice system. That's what we want to get to the bottom of. A man who controls the police, a man who controls prosecutors, a man who controls the magistrate, a man who tells you on a national TV, I'll deal with you, and nothing happens. He threatens members of parliament. He threatens witnesses of parliament who are on the stand. He sends them messages on the stand that I'm going to deal with you for the things you said about me in that committee. So it's high time that we put him at his place so he knows that there is nothing that gives him superiority. He's nothing in the government of South Africa, and he must behave like a normal citizen. Otherwise, we'll get him locked up, and locked up for a very long time.
Time running out for the ad hoc committee. Do you think that there is a reasonable prospect that Paul O'Sullivan, that Brown Mokhotsi would appear before this committee before it has to conclude its work?
We're going to argue for extension of this committee. We're dealing with facts that are looking at the time. This was done deliberately. Paul O'Sullivan and Brown Mokhotsi were raised, their names were raised right at the beginning. Only now we're being told we're trying to get them, they are refusing. People want to be seen to be busy over nothing. pretending that they are on top of this matter, whereas they are not. So they are buying time, and when they buy time, we must play the same game. We must ask for this to be extended. Why was General Vuma, we just agreed on her now, why was she called after she wrote explosive documentation that shows how Minister Cele was interfering in the procurement, in the police, how the PPEs were given to companies that were not qualified? She was not called. And why is Richard Mdluli not called? His name was there for a very long time. The man who is at the center of crippling crime intelligence in South Africa and then using the slush fund for the benefits of politicians and concubines. There's a witness that came there, said he even hired his girlfriend in the Eastern Cape crime intelligence and said no one can do anything about that. So this is a character, even if he's out of the police, he's still a South African citizen. This is a type of a character that needs to be called, who was tapping on the phones of people illegally without a magistrate or a judge's approval. All of those people who are critical are not being called. If anything, we are now dealing with things that are unrelated because they want to buy time.
The abuse of slush funds, as you mentioned,
Yes.
For the benefit of which politicians was that?
ANC politicians. The slush fund was used to benefit Zuma in his campaign. I'm told one of the witnesses also involved Mbalula somehow. So generally, Mbalula even said they must buy a grabber for the conference of the ANC. What does the grab of the police have to do with the conference of the ANC? If the ANC picked up a security threat on their conference, they knew which measures to put in place to secure their conference. Otherwise, all of us must be board grabbers when we have a conference. So the money gets used not only of crime intelligence, including state security. There were serious allegations during the Zondo Commission that millions were put in bags to go to the CR17 conference in Nasrec. So we were almost getting there because now people were involved as runners, as ordinary people. We're now saying we can see these things taking us somewhere. Let's go there and tell the truth of what happened.
And speaking of the Zondo Commission, I think what we also can't do is give Parliament a free pass in everything that's happening, because the oversight role of Parliament is critical in making sure that this democracy functions effectively. And Parliament effectively is failing, because if you listen to a lot of the testimony that we've heard, yes, we're hearing greater details. Yes, we are hearing some new evidence in terms of things we may not have heard, but a lot of it has been in the public domain. A lot of these things have been canvassed in the portfolio committees. So where does Parliament come in here? Why has Parliament failed in dealing with many of these issues? If you look at, for example, the turf wars between IPID and SAPS at OR Tambo International, what has Parliament done in terms of being effective in its oversight role?
Well, we have done a lot. The problem is the majority of those who are in Parliament suppress the ideas of those who do not have numbers. For instance, in these processes we're talking about, the ANC does not have majority, but it has partners with other political parties that are now called GNU. They use the GNU majority to dismiss some of these issues. So Parliament is an issue of numbers. And for instance, I'm saying to you, October, already we're saying Sapina, Paul O'Sullivan, and Brown Mokhotsi. We cannot do anything. Our committee agreed that let's do that. The ANC members in the committee have agreed. But the leadership of the ANC in the form of Togo Didiza is refusing, because according to rules, you can only subpoena a person if the speaker gives concurrence to such a decision. She's refusing to give concurrence to subpoena criminals who have crippled our criminal justice system and captured the police. Even if they don't extend this committee's term, they must know that at the end of the day, when we were right at the door of criminals who crippled criminal justice system, were stopped by Toko Didiza. It must be an epitaph on a grave that she protected criminals at a point, critical point, when the country was self-correcting. And you can't say we have not done anything when we have done everything in our power, yet those who have the final signature are refusing to attach their final signature so that we can kneel in the bud this criminal syndicate. So she's at the center. She made sure that this committee becomes useless by refusing to attach a signature. We cannot get to the bottom of this if we don't have Paul O'Sullivan and we don't have Brown Mokhotsi, who are saying he has been collecting money, financing ANC programs, and this money has been collecting it from drug syndicates, from criminal cartels, and financing the ANC. They were even planning to make a former minister or suspended minister of police a president with dirty money that comes from criminals. Why would you not be interested as a speaker who plays an oversight over the executive? Why would you not be interested that ministers are abusing their power by interfering, by soliciting bribes to pursue their political careers and ambition?
And I think I'm going to park that now because there's a lot still to discuss, but I want to get to other matters other than the ad hoc committee and, of course, what's happening at the Madlanga Commission. Yesterday's briefing, you also mentioned the EFF's decision to withdraw from that cooperation, the working relationship with the ANC in Gauteng. So what's at the center of that?
Well, when you're not being respected, Sakina, on a dinner table, just pull out. That's respect is everything. We have been in the cooperation with these guys for quite some time. We will make certain demand in the negotiations. We want this, we want that. They finally agree, okay, you can take this, we will take that, we'll take this, and all of that. We go and recall our speaker in Ekurhuleni to send her to provincial legislature and to bring the chairperson of the province to become a speaker. The ANC fielded a candidate against an EFF candidate on a position that they agreed that that position belongs to the EFF. In Johannesburg, they give more power and strategic positions to political parties that are so insignificant and do not have the numbers that the EFF has. The same thing in Tshwane. And we are generally being undermined in a provincial executive. The EFF does not even have a single MEC. And we're not fighting, but we keep on voting for their budget because without EFF and MK, they can't get 50+1 to pass the budget, is by law. But they go and give insignificant small parties positions of MECs. And if combined, all of them combined, including those they gave committees to, they will never reach 50+1. Politically, also in terms of electoral politics, what informs your decision to put out people who are giving you that 50+1 out of government and still expect them to vote for you even when you have put them out of government? So we gave them this vote with the hope that they will self-correct. We also took a liking on Panyaza, who understands coalition politics, who never stops. I don't know how his wife survives, because at any time you call him, evening, during the day, if there's a burning issue, he's going to come by himself. He will not say, I'm going to send someone to deal with that matter. And he will attend to those issues. Unfortunately, if things come to a push, he's going to have to leave the office. But the guy is so good, and I don't know where he got such skill to maneuver the coalition politics, which are not difficult, by the way. You can only maneuver them and successfully deal with them if you take the ego and put it aside and internally accept that we've lost power. We are now in a power-sharing agreement, and therefore I have to respect the other partners. Once you take that individual personal decision as a leader of that municipality, that I'm not in power, then healing comes from there. That's how you deal with other people.
So coalitions, and we are told this is the future of South African politics going forward. So it's also about compromise. And I was reading something over the weekend where the ANC was reported to have said that in Ekurhuleni, they are not against the EFF having the portfolio of MMC of Finance. What they are against is the candidate that the EFF is putting forward, Nkululeko Dunga.
Yes.
And they are saying anyone but Dunga. They say he's arrogant, they say he's a bully, and they don't want to work with him. So is that a red line for the EFF? Is the EFF not able to compromise and offer another candidate for that position? Or are you saying this is where we draw the line as the EFF, it is Dunga or nobody?
That is me choosing a man for you. You come and say, this is my chosen man, and I say, no, not this one. I need a teacher. This one drives taxis. Take this one. It's your choice. I don't know what you see. I can't see the butterflies in you. You know why you chose this man. So why must I choose for you? I know who's good for the EFF. But with politics, it's even worse. There is political management committee that gets to be established outside the executive of the municipalities, where party leaders sit and say, these are the issues of the council. How do we resolve them? We take a decision and we communicate to our deployees. Dunga will tell him, this is how you move. The biggest problem with them is that they wanted Dunga to allocate money when he was MMC of Finance into some program. They named it after an ANC stalwart in Ekurhuleni. Put money into that thing. So I asked, what does that mean? It means you must allocate each and every ward a budget which will be controlled by ward councillors, who are in majority of ward councillors in Ekurhuleni. So effectively they were saying, give us money, it's the ANC, give us money in our ward through our ward councillors to use municipal money to campaign for the elections. And we said, hell no. Leave arrogance, leave Dunga being more beautiful than Tlhakaza, more charismatic than Tlhakaza and all of that. Leave that. Let's go to the records of when Dunga was MMC and Jongezizo was an MMC of Finance. We have to deal with facts. When you deal with finance, you have to deal with facts. The situation has become so serious. It has degenerated. If anything, we're left with one option. One day we're going to wake up without salaries being paid. Because when it starts, service providers are not being paid. And then from there, it will go to the salaries. I'm telling you, if a decisive intervention is not made to rescue the finances of Ekurhuleni, that municipality will not go anywhere. We have been getting clean audit under our own MMC. I'm not sure if we can still say the same thing now.
So with that said, again, you are not willing to move on the issue of Dunga.
No one is going to choose a boyfriend or a girlfriend for me. We're making our own choice. And in this case, we have chosen Dunga, who's a suitable candidate, who has done well in the past. His track record speaks for himself. But what matters worse is the chairperson of a province of the EFF. We have never said to the ANC, we want Tlhakaza as a mayor. We just said we agree the ANC must take mayorship without attaching names. And the same went to all municipalities. I mean, if that was the approach, why would Dada Morero still be a mayor? The most person who has got no interest, none whatsoever, in municipality. He is there just for accumulation. Every time he opens his mouth, it's about which project they get. I'm telling you, if you put Dada Morero here and put Nasipi here, I will vote for Nasipi. Even if you say it's a PR, why? She's on the, just being on the ground and being seen to be doing something is even much better than Dada, who's invisible in a city that is extremely dirty, with hijacked buildings, potholes, with no water in Midrand. By now, Nasipi will have been in Midrand. Dada has not been to Midrand. He doesn't have a plan on how he's going to rescue the people of Midrand in big houses without water. In the villages, we don't worry because we already live that life. Our toilets are outside. So these people, their toilets as we speak now, 3, 4 toilets in one house, have got no water. Can you imagine what's happening in that place? It's 2 weeks now.
So on coalition politics, and this, of course, an election year, and the EFF, those red lines for you in terms of who you will not go into coalitions with, because you at some point invoked that saying that there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies in politics, only permanent interests. So given that we are in the era of coalition politics, where's the red line? Who will you not ever go into coalition with?
No, the EFF doesn't have that policy of we can't work with so and so. It's the DA that said it will never work with the EFF. When it comes to local government municipality, a principle is very simple. As long as these people are committed to delivering services to our people, we will work with them, irrespective of ideological differences. Because on the cold front of service delivery is local government. So if we're going to be doing ideological contestations at that level, people will not get water, people will not get electricity. In a coalition government, all you need is respect for your partners. Once you do that, you will have a functional government. The ANC did not allow Tlhakaza to undermine the kind of arrangement we have in Gauteng. I can tell you now, the government of Gauteng was going to work and work effectively, even when it's a minority government, because we were there to support it and make sure that the agenda of the right wing doesn't prevail. But because they cannot prevail over their lower structures, we find ourselves in this situation. It is for the ANC to just go to Ekurhuleni and say, you are out of order. This is the marching orders. You're going to move in this direction. And we proceed. We have nothing to do. And I think Maile, in his response, appreciated that we don't have a problem with him. We don't have a problem with these processes towards passing of budget, because he's also consulting everyone, making sure that our inputs are incorporated in the budget.
Let's move now to your case in East London and where we were, where you put me on blast. But
I was joking, and then the next thing I'm here.
all the same, you are here. So let's talk about that, because the charges are quite serious and the implications are serious. You have been convicted. So now awaiting sentencing, but you've already indicated that you will be appealing.
Yes.
But let's talk about all of the repercussions that could flow from that potentially. One of which is your continued role as the EFF leader in Parliament. So you have indicated to your party what will happen, but let's talk about that.
Well, they found me guilty, and I said I'm going to appeal. That we're waiting for sentencing. And if they send me to prison, I will appeal immediately. I will have a team in Bisho and a team in East London the same day. Once she says, so whatever, yes, then we'll put in a leave to appeal. Once she rejects it, the Bisho team will petition the High Court and then send us a proof that they've already petitioned the High Court, and we give it to her and say to her, because High Court has been petitioned, we are now appealing for bail. And if she refuses the bail, we'll also immediately petition the High Court, which means a judge will be there, a judge who deals with agent matters will be in Bisho. We'll have to hear why this guy is being denied bail. I've been going to that court for the past 7 years. I've never missed a single court date. Why would you deny me bail? I'm a political leader. I'm a leader of a political party. So I'm here. If bail granted, then I continue business as usual, because appeal suspend the decision of the lower court. So the issue is, I don't see any seriousness in the charges, because, Sakina, when you are found guilty of having used a firearm to commit crime, that firearm is seized to the state. Once they say guilty, the state takes that firearm away from you because it was used to commission a crime. A day before she passed the judgment, I don't know how the prosecutor knew. The prosecutor will have to tell the courts in future. He called Adrian, accused number 2, to come and take his firearm before she announced a judgment. As we speak now, that firearm is at its owner's place. It's not in the cells, it's not the custody of the police. So when you say Malema is found guilty of having discharged a firearm in public, and I'm in that court and we're to ask you, where is that firearm? It's at home. Why is it at home if it was used to commit crime? So you can see that we no longer, because once you remove that firearm from the crime scene and you remove accused number 2 because you are saying he's the one who brought the fire, who gave the firearm to me, and you say, no, he didn't give Malema the firearm. Where did Malema get this firearm? Because you are not alleging that Malema stole the firearm. You know where the firearm belongs. You know who the firearm was released to. And then the next thing you find the firearm in East London. None of those people is found guilty or charged for that firearm. How did Malema, how do you answer the question, how did Malema get hold of this firearm?
You accused the magistrate of being racist.
Yes.
Why?
Look, I think she's pursuing something else other than the law. I mean, in her judgment was saying, I was very entertaining during my testimony and very open and all of that. How can that be a legal reason to send someone to prison? I applied before, not now, for the recusal of that magistrate because I said to her, you are the one prosecuting me. I'm not being prosecuted by the prosecutor. And a typical example happened during the sentencing trial, where the prosecutor asked questions. He has got no law to refer to. He has got no precedence to refer to. This is the case of its first kind. He doesn't call a witness in aggravation. He doesn't lead any evidence in aggravation. And then he closes his case. After he says, now I'm done with my case, the magistrate realizes this guy did not break this witness of Malema. And then she comes in and says, yeah, don't tell us about Soup Kitchen. What is so special about Soup Kitchen? Because there are 20 of them here. There's no 20 soup kitchens around that court. I don't know. If you go outside this court, you find 20 soup. To her, soup kitchen is nothing because she has never have to need a soup kitchen in her entire life. She's now showing her privilege and passing some innuendos that suggest those people do not even deserve of such things. So you get a magistrate who prosecute a case instead of listening. So when you are a magistrate, your role is to listen. You can question for clarity. You don't bring new evidence. In between the lady who was leading evidence on our behalf and the prosecutor, no one ever said there are 20 soup kitchens outside. You bring evidence that was never led as a magistrate. How do you explain that?
So with regard to that, and because you said that the magistrate is racist and for of various other reasons, the chanting of certain songs and so on, there is, of course, a belief that Julius Malema hates white people. Do you hate white people?
No, not at all. And they know I don't hate them.
So what do you have against white people?
I don't have anything against white people. I've got everything against the system that has taken from black people. Black people are landless. Black people are not empowered. The youth of black nation is unemployed, no empowerment opportunities, no access to education. Every privilege white person has, and it is not of their own making. Black children do not have that. And when I speak about that, because they are the ones who have those privileges, they now concoct a message to create a negative narrative about my messaging, that we need to share the wealth of the country. We need to share the land of the country. We need to treat each other as equals. And then they take that and distort it. And that's what I'm saying. They actually understand me better than black people because some black people do not know English. My message is always communicated in English. But a person takes a decision to say, it doesn't matter what he says, I'm going to distort him. because his message must never penetrate and find its way amongst the people. So if you are used to having 10, and I say to you, let's share, it means you're going to have less 5. And they are refusing to have less 5. Even when 5 they're remaining with, it's enough for them. They are refusing. So that cannot be racism. I never had, in my entire life, I never worked for a white person. Never worked as unlike other children from poor background like me. I never worked as a gardener. I never worked in a shop. And I never had any proper interaction with white people where you will say, but okay, maybe the hatred comes from there. I remember one day I was in a club. I was with Mazodi and his family in a club. And then some white lady came to sit on my lap. And then they took a picture. That picture is still circulating till today. And people say, for sure it is this hand which had Malema. And that's why Malema doesn't like white people. But I didn't know her. She asked for a picture like I do with everyone. I gave her a picture. The first time I worked with white people, first time in my life, was in 2014 when I arrived in Parliament. And then white people were put next to me here in the form of a DA. That was the closest I've been to white people. So I've never done a business deal with a white person. I'm trying to find that, what is it that people can make it so personal about Malema hating white people? I hate the system. I hate the capitalist system that exploit our people and leave them with nothing.
All right. We need to run through a few issues that I quickly want to touch on. Your erstwhile brother, Floyd Chibambu, Africa Maibuye leader now, he says that the disconnection for him from the EFF came when he realized that the party's leadership was complicit in tender fraud.
Yeah.
What is your response to that? Are you aware of that?
There's no such a nonsense. I mean, what is he saying? Moving away from the EFF because the party is moving towards the direction of corruption. When we formed the party, I had a corruption case in Polokwane. He was always next to me. If he hates what he says he hates now, why didn't that time he didn't even have to be next to me? Nothing. We were no longer in the ANC. There was no EFF. I think we formed it even after being charged. So to want to appear clear of non-existing things really is unfortunate. My sister, I don't understand what is their problem. They leave the EFF. No one expelled them. They leave the EFF. And then from there, instead of looking forward to where they are going, they start thinking in reverse. Everything EFF, everything EFF. It's not true. If that happened, he was a leader of the GTU, Governance Task Unit of the EFF. And therefore, he would have to take a full responsibility because such interactions would have gone through him to be made possible on the ground. But, I know the distraction. I know when people don't know what to do with themselves, they look at who can we attack, and then they come for you. I mean, if Mbuyiseni Ndlozi was to come to the EFF tomorrow, I will put a red carpet for him. Because, yes, he's one of the few who conducted himself in a very different manner. Because I know for a fact that once they leave the EFF, they start behaving like they are potential patients of mental hospital.
So the doors open for Mbuyiseni, Floyd?
No. Mbuyiseni never took a T-shirt of another political party. So the constitution of the EFF is clear. Once you leave the EFF and put on a T-shirt of another political party, you cannot come back because the EFF is not holding in where you do check in, check out.
All right.
But Mbuyiseni didn't check out and go into another political party. He said, I'm taking a break, let me make a reflections and decide on my way forward without being emotional. Of course, he has been engaging in the discourse, but he has never degenerated.
Let's run through these. The expulsion of the Israeli deputy ambassador here from South Africa. Your take on that, and just very briefly with regard to the ongoing situation in Gaza.
That is a step in the right direction, but that's what cowards do. they behave like they're doing something so that you don't suspect they're cowards. There is a parliament resolution that says close the Israeli embassy. And if they make that move, that is a very strong, bold move that will be sending a message, will be sending to Israel that stop killing children and women, stop bombarding churches, stop bombarding schools, stop bombarding old museums that have the old material that reminds us of the Palestinian nation. You cannot wipe out a nation right in front of our eyes and you expect us to keep quiet. We would have failed as this generation.
You're saying we shouldn't go to the World Cup in the US. Why should we ban or boycott that event?
Well, there is a violation of human rights in the US now. There is that unit called ICE, which is attacking immigrants, especially those who can't produce. So we have lived through that, where we had to put our IDs on our foreheads for us not to be beaten up. We cannot guarantee the security of Bafana Bafana. We cannot guarantee the security of the fans of South Africa if we are allowed in that particular country. It is not safe to go to America, not only during the World Cup. Any South African who had an intention to go to America, this is not the time. It is dangerous. Secondly, the support of America to Israel to bombard Palestine is a support in solidarity with those who are victims of the imperialist forces and the powerful. Because we cannot allow America to continue the policy of violence and there is no international solidarity. Maduro has been arrested without a due process. Greenland is going to be expropriated without a due process. Interference everywhere through violent means is not something we want to associate with. So we, the beneficiaries of international solidarity, should be knowing what international solidarity can do in pressurizing the powerful to succumb and respect human rights.
We're out of time. Final question, victory or death, 2026?
Yes.
Can anyone other than Julius Malema lead the EFF?
Absolutely, absolutely. The EFF, actually Ipsos gives that research, and you can even check with them. They say the brand EFF has grown beyond the brand Julius Malema. And that's what makes me very happy, that EFF is no longer Julius Malema. It is an institution on its own. It can stand on its own. It ran a plenum now. For the first time in the past 11 years, I had to go on Friday, after speaking, to go and bury one of my relatives. And they ran the whole of Saturday alone with the deputy president and the SG and the leadership. And went to commissions. The following day, I joined them. They produced very good results without me being there. So EFF is not Julius Malema.
It's time for you to step aside.
It's not your call. You're going
But
to
will you?
You're going to take.
But will you?
No, it's not your call to say that. No, I won't do it, by the way, but it's not your call to make. I won't do it. I'm still very young. Where must I go at this age? 44. When people are loitering around at 89, 94 and all of that. No.
We'll find out when the time will be right. Julius Malema, EFF President, Commander-in-Chief, speaking to us here on Morning Live. That's where we'll leave it. Let's hand it over to Leanne for the news.